Hi Pavel, thanks for joining us again today here at ITD Canada. Today I really want to talk to you about a topic that's really important to a lot of our potential students. They're wondering what happens, and actually current students as well, they're wondering what happens to them if they decide to stay in Canada after they graduate from this college.
Sure.
So that's the topic. I know there are a lot of different options, but I just wanted to sit down with you and see what your thoughts are.
Sure. Your students and all other international students in Canada, they definitely have many options, but I would say the most popular and the most one that works perfectly for them and fit for them will be express entry. Right?
Okay. So before we get into that, I don't know what express entry is, but the thing that I hear about all the time is this thing called PGWP or PWGP, something like that.
Postgraduate work permit. Yeah.
Postgraduate work permit. So this is something that I hear this question from a lot of students. Could you explain what postgraduate work permit is?
Yeah, postgraduate work permit is a type of a work permit that graduates, international students who graduate from Canadian institutions, colleges and universities, Canadian schools can get, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's can they get it with all institutions, or is it some institutions versus others?
There is a special list composed by Canadian government for institutions that are eligible for this postgraduate work permit, right?
Okay.
Not all of them. I would say all public Canadian schools are eligible for postgraduate work permit, and there is some private schools as well, but for private schools not all of their programs are eligible. So there is a really small part of the
So
programs.
realistically, it's just for public schools?
Yes. True.
Okay, and ITD is not a public school, therefore postgraduate work permit is not an option currently with
It's not guaranteed, right?
It's not guaranteed.
Yes.
It is an option. So, but what I hear from you every time we've talked, you've said it's not that important. Like postgraduate work permit is only a very small option compared to everything else that's available. Could you give us a little bit of an insight
Right.
into
I would
that?
say postgraduate work permit is just an option for students, international students, to stay in Canada after graduation and to work temporarily.
Temporarily.
Temporary. That's what it is designed for, right?
Okay.
Not for immigration, definitely, right?
Okay, so if I'm interested in staying in this country and getting my PR, getting my citizenship, this is probably not the best route.
It's one of the options, definitely not the best, right?
Okay.
Let me tell you this, what express entry is. Actually, express entry is not a program, right? It's a kind of system that government of Canada introduced 3 years ago to make you show your interest in applying for permanent residency, right?
Okay.
And now what they did used to be that if you're eligible, you just collect your paperwork and you apply. Not right now, not anymore. Right now you just introduce your interest to apply for permanent residence, right? And you
So it's kind of like me putting my hand up and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in becoming a permanent resident."
Right.
Okay.
And this system is a points-based system. So basically, you get your points for your age, for your education,
Okay.
for your work experience, and for your foreign language abilities. Foreign language, I mean English or French, right? You understand,
Okay.
right? And if we're talking about experience, work
So
experience,
just those four things.
those 4 things. That's
Okay.
it, right?
So let's start at the top with age. Is
Sure.
it the older I am, the more points I get?
Vice versa, actually. Right?
Darn it! And I thought I got lucky here.
Right. You can get most of the points you can get while you are less than 30 years old. 30, you in most cases get maximum, right?
Okay.
After 30, unfortunately you are losing your points.
You're
right?
losing points.
You're losing, right?
Okay.
And if you're talking about students, international students, so basically it's a golden age, right? So
Yeah.
for students, people who are between 20 to 30 months.
That's
in most
right.
cases,
Mostly,
right?
yeah.
So I would say for age, our applicants, our clients, potential clients, they will get maximum for their age, right? So
Okay.
25 to
So if you're
30.
between 20 and 30, you're getting maximum points for age. So
Yes.
you don't need to worry about that.
You
That's
good, I would say, till 40.
Till 40,
right?
okay.
But after 40, unfortunately have to look for some other option.
Okay. But what you're saying, but what I'm hearing you say is if I'm 27 years old, I get more points than someone who's 39 years old.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next thing.
Education.
Education.
And we hear
okay.
all about education, right?
Yeah.
So basically for education, you can get points for your foreign education, foreign I mean from your country,
Right.
and for Canadian education, right?
Okay. So if I have a bachelor's degree from my country before coming to ITD and getting my diploma, my certificate from ITD, I can count my bachelor's towards my points as well.
Right.
Okay.
And the highest level of education is, the more points you get, right? So for example,
Okay.
if you have a master degree,
Uh-huh.
you will get more points if you have only bachelor degree.
Okay.
And the top points you can get from your PhD degree, right?
Okay.
We have not many clients, but I do see some clients with master degree, and they definitely
Well,
are.
because their age will go up too, then
True.
then it's like it's gonna start to
Yeah.
play against that.
Yeah, yeah. And we have Canadian education here, right?
Okay.
So basically, for Canadian education, you can get up to not up to, but you can get 15 points. And if we're talking about ITD, right? So after even studying for 1 year at ITD, you can get your 15 points, which in
Okay.
most cases they make a huge difference when you apply for express entry.
So
right?
even if they're a student that didn't go for the co-op program, they only took the 1 year program, they get 15 points.
Yes, true.
Okay.
So it should be a 1 to 2 diploma program or certificate program.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Uh,
Next.
Next, we have work experience on our
Okay.
list, right? So again, work experience can be foreign work experience and Canadian one, right?
Okay.
And for maximum points for your foreign work experience, you get if you have a 3 years of work experience.
3
eligible,
years.
eligible work experience. We
Okay.
can talk later about what is eligible work experience.
Okay.
It's these NOC codes A, B, and O, right? But
So it's basically what you're saying is certain jobs,
Certain
only
jobs.
certain jobs, certain positions would qualify to count towards the points for work
Right.
experience.
Same rules applies to Canadian work experience,
Okay.
right? Should be those qualifying positions. And yeah, you get points for your foreign work experience and for Canadian work experience, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and this postgraduate for permanent scene, it's about this Canadian work experience that you get,
I see.
right?
Okay.
And the last one we have here is English. And I would say out of these 4 scenes that we need to get to express entry, English is the most important, right?
Okay.
It's not about your education, not about your work experience. It's about, I would say, it's about your age and English.
Okay.
And if we talk about Asian English, English is more important.
Is more important. So if I know this isn't, you can't really do it this way, but if you were to use your experience, and put a percentage to each one of those, how would you do it?
Let's talk not about percentage. Let's talk about what you can change.
Okay.
Do you have any influence on your age?
No.
No. Do you have any
Not
influence
yet.
on your okay? Do you have any influence on your English abilities?
Yes.
Absolutely yes. When you come to here to Canada to study and you have 2 years in front of you, so do your best to work
get
on
your
your
English up.
right? And even half of a point for your IELTS or CELPIP test make a huge difference, right?
Okay. So tell me about the evaluation for English. How does that work? How do they evaluate my English?
Right. So here in Canada we have 2 recognized tests for your English abilities. It's IELTS, so everybody knows what
Yeah.
IELTS test is, and the second one is CELPIP.
Okay.
International students don't have many options to get the CELPIP test outside of Canada. It's mostly for Canadian immigration system, so
Okay.
you can get it here, right? If you ask me which one is easier to pass, I would say CELPIP, right?
Okay.
CELPIP is a 12 points testing system, while
Okay.
IELTS is 9. And many of my clients, they confirm that CELPIP is a way easier, right?
Okay.
So I would advise CELPIP. If you ever pass IELTS, if you pass it several times, you know how it works and you kind of experiencing this, I say yes, continue to work on your IELTS because you know it already, right? So you already invested so much time into this test. If you never did any tests and anyone will work for you, I would say start from CELPIP. This one.
Okay. So just kind of to summarize, right? If I'm a person that's not in Canada yet and I'm trying to come here, go to school, and then after that stay in Canada, get permanent residency status, or become a citizen eventually, the best thing to do is come as soon as possible,
Absolutely,
right? So the
yes.
age factor is not working against me.
Right.
And while I'm here, don't waste any time with anything else, right? Go get my education so I can get the 15 points, because it's quick, right? I go for 1 year, I get 15 points.
This is absolutely true. And about wasting time, let me tell you one more thing, right? They made these changes very, very recently, only in beginning of 2018, right? Now, if, for example, so every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks they have these drawings, right, for Express Entry, right? And drawing is about the minimum score that after which one you'll be invited to Express Entry, right?
Okay.
And if so, for example, the minimum score say is 400 and say 40, right?
Okay.
So there are many people that will get this minimum points 440, right? Are they eligible? Not all of them. So it used to be before 2018, all of them were eligible, unless you, as long as you get your 440, you're eligible, right? Not anymore. Now they have a certain amount of placements for this minimum score, and they will take only those people who applied first. So say we have 100 people who have this minimum 440, so which one will be taken first one? The one who applied first, right?
Okay.
So if we have a person who applied 3 months ago and the person who applied only last week, they will take
the
that
one who
person.
applied 3 months ago.
So another thing about wasting
So
time.
speed is important.
Don't waste your time. Yes, come to Canada, study at school. And about this postgraduate work permit thing, let me tell you this thing, right? So in many cases, if you have a bachelor degree from your home, right? If you have 3 years of work experience, foreign work experience, and you have a Canadian education, in many cases you're eligible. If we're talking about that you have also a good level of English, right? So
Okay, they kind of have to if they're coming to our school.
Right.
You can't.
So let me tell you this. So it's not it's not a good thing waiting another year for postgraduate work permit if you are eligible already, right? So I would advise you this. So come to Canada, study, get your additional points for your Canadian education, and again, in many cases, you are now eligible to apply. So there is no sin to wait another year, and again, wait another year, you're kind of losing points for your age, right? So.
Okay.
So let me get it straight. I can do postgraduate work permit and I can lose points too, because my age is getting older and I'm just waiting to collect points for PGWP, but at the same time I'm losing points for my age.
Let's be realistic here. So basically, to find a job here in Canada is not a very easy thing, right? So yes, in some cases you have up to 3 years for postgraduate work permit, right? But how many, not years, but realistically months, you will lose finding your first job, right? And talking about jobs, again, jobs should be, the job should be from the NOC code 0A or B, right? So again, if you work in a restaurant as a server, you found your first job, we're talking about maybe your first job that you can get here in Canada, it's not easy, right? So it will be probably these entry positions that are not eligible for getting points for you, right? So if you work for 1 year as a server at a restaurant, no way.
That doesn't count.
You will get 0 points, right? Yeah.
So I can reiterate the fact that you could actually get the postgraduate work permit, you could get a job and still you don't collect the point for immigration.
Absolutely right, yeah. Dependent on the job you find yourself.
And at the same time your age is getting more and more and you're continuously losing points.
So yeah, technically you can lose 3 years working on some not eligible position in Canada, and then later when you decide to apply for express entry, if you're eligible, so you can get, technically you can get 0.
So in summation, thinking that postgraduate work permit is equal to immigration or like an alternative for immigration is not necessarily correct. It doesn't mean that once you have the postgraduate work permit, you are already a permanent resident. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. And again, so postgraduate work permit was aimed to give additional options, temporary options for graduates of Canadian institutions to work in Canada, right? It's kind of marketing scene from Canadian government to attract more international students to have this option to study, because we know that there are not such options anymore in UK. I guess I'm not an expert on USA immigration system, but I guess they're also making it more strict, right? So Canada is not only, but one of the last place where students have these options, right? Yeah.
That they can study and work at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have one last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. Other than express entry, for someone who finishes studying with ITD or any other college for that matter, here, are there other routes that are open to them for becoming a permanent resident?
Yeah, sure. You see, while you're in Canada, this is your time to work on your options, right? So what options we have? We have this express entry option. We have a number of provincial programs, right? We have good programs here in BC. We have perfect provincial programs, immigration programs in remote provinces, like these Northern Territories and some others.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan has a good one, right? So you can, while here in Canada and while working on your co-op thing here with the college, right? You can find an employer who will be willing to sponsor you for LMIA, Labor Market Opinion Assessment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting LMIA, it will give you many additional points again towards your express entry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of things. You just have to use your time right while you can.
Okay,
right?
so maybe in another video at some point in time we can discuss some of those other options so people understand their alternatives. I want to thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
I always love sitting down and chatting with you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Thank you.